Hey!
Hey! Hopefully that worked.
Yeah. Do you like the name Dished at Birth?
I really like the name Dished at Birth.
And then for like the theme music, you should get like the Switched at Birth song, like dun, dun.
Okay, we don't have that kind of budget,
No, we
so
don't.
so we're definitely not doing that.
Welcome to Dished at Birth.
Welcome to Dished at Birth. Oh my god, we didn't say that. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome.
What podcast is this? What are we gonna do?
We're rewatching Switched at Birth.
Every episode.
Every episode. God help us.
I know. And oh my god, there's so many episodes. I
There
know the
are
first
so
season
many.
has 30 episodes.
Yeah, because when I went on my initial rewatch before we thought of doing a podcast at all,
Right.
and I just said, remember Switched at Birth? How funny would it be if I tossed it on? And then I texted you like, oh my god, guess what I'm watching? I only made it to episode 16.
Of season 1?
Yeah, before I gave up. Because we were like, oh, we're going to record this, and I wanted to be fresh.
Me too.
But 2, that's 16 hours of television.
It's a lot. How'd you find out about the show?
So I think I was already taking sign language lessons, like, with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the trailer dropped. And I was already, like, an ABC Family, like, drama kid.
What else was on the ABC Family at the time? Pretty Little Liars.
Okay, I actually didn't watch Pretty Little
my
Liars.
God. I was a Pretty Little Liars fan.
I was really scared of shows where there was murder involved.
Yeah, that's the show.
Yeah, that's the whole show. Anyway, it came on, and my friends and I were like, we have to watch this all together
Right.
every whatever night it was on, Wednesday after sign language. Like, we started coordinating our lessons so we'd already be at someone's house
Okay.
so we could all watch it together afterwards. How did it find you?
Same thing, trailer in 2011. For context, I am deaf/hard of hearing.
We should have started with that.
Oh, I'm Kara, by the way. My name is Kara, and my friend here is...
I'm Danny, and I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I'm Kara, and I am deaf/hard of hearing, whatever you want. Just don't say hearing impaired. So I saw the trailer in my home in 2011, and I said, holy crap, there's a deaf person, and she's signing. For context, I didn't know how to sign yet. I didn't learn sign until much later in life. And I've been fluent/proficient. Let's say proficient. I'm not fluent. In ASL for about 3 years now. But it was still so cool to see like a young deaf girl on TV. And I was like, oh, well, I will absolutely be watching this. I just put on my TiVo or whatever people did back then. And I watched it every week. And yeah.
I was a big rewatcher. Like, I would watch it with my friends, and then the next day I would, like, go on Hulu.
And you would watch it again.
And rewatch it.
And that's extra work.
And that's mental illness.
Man, I was such a big fan of the show when it first came out. I talked about it with people at school. I remember that. But I don't know if too many of my friends watched it. I don't think I had like a group of friends to watch it with like you did. It was definitely something I watched at home alone after school. And then I think I kind of just fell off as I got to like high school age.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't finished the show.
No, I never finished the show.
Yeah. And I went back. I also, I think, fell off and then went back years later and did a complete rewatch. So I, unfortunately, know where everyone ends up.
Okay, yeah, I think I fell off around season 3. I know season 1 very well, and then after that, I'm not entirely sure, but it would be really nice to go back to the show and kind of see what they did right and see what they didn't do so well. And then also, I think, since I've been learning ASL and connecting with deaf culture and the deaf community in the past few years, it'd be a nice way for me to process the things I've been going through by watching this very silly show. Yeah. So the show was created in 2011 by Lizzie Wise. Yeah, and she is not deaf. I don't think is part of deaf culture at all. But I watched some YouTube video about, like, why'd you make the show? And she was just like, I just thought the idea was fun.
Oh, okay. So not like no inspiration from anything in her real life, just
No, I think she was just like, the idea of children being switched to birth is fascinating. And then she was like, well, what if one of them was deaf? She didn't know about anything about deaf culture while creating the show. And I think they kind of she just learned from making it.
Do we think she got deaf people involved?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
more than what we've seen? Like were there deaf people in the writer's room is what I'm dying to know.
I don't know about the writer's room, but there were definitely deaf people helping with the dialogue. The guy who plays Emmett Bledsoe's dad, he was the ASL coach for the show.
Emmett Bledsoe, the love of my life.
Yeah,
Okay.
Emmett Bledsoe, the love of
Sean
your life.
Birdie.
Sean Birdie.
Shout out to Sean Birdie. Love him so much.
He disappeared off the face of the earth. Where is he?
I think he's a real estate agent in Florida now. As is the actor who plays Travis later on, who's not in the show yet.
Wow, he's also a real estate agent in Florida.
Maybe not in Florida, but somewhere because I was Facebook friends with him. Like he had like one of those Facebook accounts that was like a public figure who you could both follow and friend request.
Yep.
But he just accepted every single friend request. But I remember literally being like, oh my God, we're Facebook friends.
And Travis from Switched to Birth. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
He was such a cutie. Sometimes I think they're both still acting and they sometimes show up in things, but not
Nearly to the
nearly as much, and not nearly as much as that one actor who I love who's now involved in Deaf West, who was on Dancing with the Stars. Oh,
Molly Matlin.
No. No, she was a huge get for this show.
Yeah, they had Disney money for her.
Yeah. Because my mom was like, oh my God, that's Marlee Matlin. And I had no frame of reference. I was 12 years old.
I don't know if I knew who she was. I think I must have seen her in other things because she's probably the only deaf representation I ever got growing up. I think I was just like, oh, I have seen her before, and she is the one who signs really fast.
Yeah. And also probably the best actor on
And
the
she
show.
is so hot.
And she's extremely hot, which I don't think they really let her be. They don't really let any of the mom characters actually be hot.
Let them be MILFs.
Yeah,
Let
they're
them
and
be
they're
MILFs.
they're all MILFs.
They are all MILFs. I had such a crush on Catherine.
You did?
She was so hot with like her little. Now that I'm saying this, her glasses and her red bangs looks somewhat suspiciously like my wife.
Yeah.
Who also has like blondish hair, bangs, and glasses.
Yeah,
I guess I
wow.
have a type.
You really do. That's crazy.
That is so silly.
Yeah, and she's like a high school movie. Like she was famous as a
Well,
teenager.
she was in Back to the Future.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, the show was like really revolutionary. This was the this is like the first mainstream TV series to feature deaf characters in ASL, but it's not the first TV show at all to feature ASL. And from my very quick Google search, the first show was a children's show from the 70s called Rainbow's End. And then Sesame Street did it in 1971 with Linda Bove, who was a deaf actress, and she was like a regular cast member on Sesame Street, which
God,
tracks.
I love
and
Sesame
then
Street.
that kind of was it. The 70s, and then nothing.
Wow, kind of like how they're like, let's teach all the first graders the alphabet, and then just stop there.
And yeah, like baby sign.
Yeah,
But the second they start speaking, they're like, okay, that's enough. Should we get into the show?
we should get into this episode, which is called "This Is Not a Pipe."
Yeah, and it aired June 6, 2011.
This is the episode where two girls from different worlds find out that they were switched at birth. So let's go through it scene by scene.
Scene by scene. We're starting off at Buckner Hall.
We're starting off at Buckner Hall with a voiceover that feels so relevant today because it's pulled straight from that Sydney Sweeney ad that everyone's pissed off about.
The American Eagle one?
Yes, the teacher is literally saying, not literally, but she's basically going, genes are passed down from parent to offspring. Like in the lab, explaining blood, like explaining
That's
your blood
right.
type. She's talking about genes. She's saying like, this is what you're inheriting from your parents.
Did you know schools had to stop doing this because too many students were finding out they weren't related to their parents?
I was going to ask, did you do this?
I did not do a blood test, but I think I remember specifically in my 9th grade biology class, I had to see if like I could roll my tongue or if I had a widow's peak. And then like, did I get it from my mom? Did I get it from my dad? And I kind of just like checked it off. but it wasn't as invasive as a blood test. Because I think with the blood test, it's like physical proof. Oh,
Yeah, the pricking of the finger feels sort of intense for a high school science class to me.
but they did it all the time, I think. Listeners, let us know if you had to do this in
Yeah.
your biology classes.
Please let me know if you had a blood test, because I don't know my blood type.
I don't know my blood type. The fact that everyone in this family knows their blood type is very impressive.
That's wealth for you.
Yeah.
So
Kinda
that's where it all begins.
Yeah. But we meet in that particular scene, we meet John Canish, who's played by D.W. Moffat, and then Catherine Canish, who's played by Leah Thompson, a.k.a. Marty McFly's mom from the Back to the Future movies, which I know her from. Still a MILF. And then we also meet Toby Canish, played by Lucas Grabeel, a.k.a. Ryan Evans from High School Musical.
God, I love him so much.
That was such an exciting find. As a kid, I was like, oh my God, Ryan from High School Musical.
It was truly thrilling to see him on screen.
I was like, I'm just so glad he's like continuing his acting career aside from High School Musical.
It like made me feel safe in this new and unfamiliar world. I was like, oh my God, Ryan's here. So it can't be that scary.
Yeah. And then also, I think we noticed, oh my God, their house is huge.
Yeah, their house is
The kitchen,
ginormous.
The kitchen's the size of my apartment. My full apartment.
Yeah. That's going to be a big feature is how rich the Kenishes are.
They're so rich. It's unbelievable.
There's never really like parameters drawn.
I don't know. Do we want to do spoilers? I think it's okay to do spoilers because the show has
Yeah.
been on for years.
I am like, if you're listening to this, I would hope that you're either our dear, dear friends who are supporting us, or you're going to watch the show or have watched
Or
the
have
show
already watched it.
recently enough that we can spoil stuff. But like, John Kenish does go on to run for Senate.
Yeah, state senate.
Yeah, which feels like something that only someone with access to a lot of money can do.
And Republican.
Yeah. Oh God, we're gonna get into that. It was
Yeah.
a different time, kind of, not really.
But also, maybe I'm ignorant about how much you make in baseball. Yeah, for context, they have so much money because he used to play for the Kansas
City.
Oh my God.
Royals?
Yes, the Kansas City Royals. He was the third baseman for the Kansas City Royals. I guess you make millions of dollars that way. And then he also owns a car wash company.
Yeah, a series of car washes.
Yes.
Which I guess they live in such a rich neighborhood that people are all the time just like taking their cars to the car wash.
I guess also for Kansas City, this is a lot.
I honestly, I don't have the cultural touchstones.
Me neither.
But they're rich. They're really rich. They're rich enough that, like, I don't think money is ever a problem for
Ever.
them for anything. They can get out of almost anything. They have
Well-
all the resources in the world.
And the kids go to Buckner Hall, which is a fancy private school, and they're fancy private school uniforms. Anyways, yeah, the next scene, Faye's in the car with her mom, and on the street, she spots a street art of a girl holding an X. I wonder if we're going to see that again.
This is such a teen thing to do. Like, you can see her baiting her mom. She knows her mom isn't going to like it. And she's like, look at that, Mom. Like, she wants so badly. I feel so bad for her, but also I was like, Bae, come on. Know your audience.
That's true. You're from a rich white family. Like, why are they like graffiti, quote unquote, street art?
Yeah. But she uses that moment to be like, hey, I have a crazy question. Like,
And I cannot believe they said yes, knowing what I know about them now. To go to a genetic counselor. And then, yeah, 6 weeks later, they find out that Bae is not their bio daughter. But who is? We don't know. And then that, of course, the hospital mixed up, and they might have switched the bracelets or whatnot.
which they say so casually.
Oh, it happens. Anyway,
Yeah. Also, we've already contacted the mother who has your daughter, your biological daughter. Like,
Yeah.
Regina and Daphne show up pretty much immediately. I do love the establishing shot we get of Regina's house before they've revealed, like, the mic drop reveal that Daphne is deaf.
I do think it was cool. Like, you see the house, first of all, is much more working class, much smaller. And we meet two women, and the teen has red hair, and you're like, oh, obviously this is Catherine
Right.
Fletcher's daughter. And then also, Daphne does not respond to when the kettle whistles, and then the landline phone flashes instead of rings. Regina answers the phone and goes, "Hello? Yes, this is she." And then Daphne turns her head and goes,
I love
and then
a touchstone of this show is like a long shot on Daphne reacting to something
that's true.
with like confusion and concern. Katie Leclerc's got this really specific way she moves her eyebrows.
She's got great facial expressions,
She does have great facial expressions.
and that's Deb culture.
Should we talk about how
Oh
we
my
feel about
God.
Katie Leclerc a little?
Yeah, we need to talk. Okay, yeah, Daphne is played by Katie Leclerc, who is hard of hearing in real life because she has Meniere's disease. But that Jeff accent, that's not real.
No.
She is faking that Jeff accent. She had to get a voice coach for it. I did read an interview with her in the San Diego Entertainer magazine from 2011. They just did whatever interviews they could at the time. But apparently, they were like, "Oh, why'd you learn sign?" She was like, "Oh, I just need a foreign language to graduate high school." This was before she got Meniere's disease.
Yeah.
But it runs in the family. Her sister and her father have it. And her sister was an ASL teacher at the school. So she was like, it was fun because I was 17 and my sister was my teacher. And she took it for 1 year. And then that kind of was it. And then 3 years later, when she's 20, she gets diagnosed with Meniere's disease. But it's not very clear if she started learning ASL more after she was diagnosed, but it seems that she only started learning ASL because of the show. And don't get me wrong, her ASL is pretty good. It's not fluent, but it's very good. And they have an ASL coach there helping her out. But yeah, it was an interesting choice for the show.
Definitely an interesting choice. I still don't know how I feel about it.
I know it's a tough choice. I think she did the role with a lot of respect.
Yeah,
I think now they probably wouldn't have made that choice for casting.
definitely not. Or I would hope not.
I would hope not. I think no, her singing's nice. She also looks just like Catherine Kanish. So I
She
think they
does.
really cast it correctly for a lookalike. But yeah, I think they really could have gotten any other deaf redhead. Capital D deaf redhead. I don't know. But also, then who am I to say that she's not actually deaf? I don't know. I'm hesitant to say she's capital D deaf and more that she's hard of hearing.
Yeah.
Because I also don't know if she continues to sign after the show. It doesn't seem the case with her social media. Oh, also, she was 24 when they started filming.
Cool. Then I don't feel weird at all about saying Daphne's so hot. It's
She's
crazy.
so
She's so hot. Like, wish they had cast maybe someone else for many reasons, but she's so hot. Obviously, she looks like she belongs in that family. So Daphne, as we learn, we'll go back to the scene now where they
right.
reveal that she's deaf, which
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of crazy that it was an interesting choice that they were like, have her walk into the frame.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, the genetic counselor's office.
Yeah, you can see like her hearing aids are visible.
Yes.
But then also when she sees everybody, she's like, it's nice to meet you. But she also signs, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, she simcoms it.
Which I thought there's definitely a producer in the background saying, we need to have her sign so that they know she's deaf.
And then everyone goes,
Yeah, there's a big...
and she's deaf done.
Yeah, it's a big twist. Which I get. It's a shock. The Kenishes have never met a single person that's different from them, literally ever, it seems.
But also, most hearing parents, the first deaf person they meet is their child.
I just find it interesting that she simcoms that, but then Daphne does not really simcom with the Kenishes at all until they
No.
start signing.
That is true. That's a good point. I think maybe she was like, well,
Let me just...
maybe they don't see my clear hearing aids. Maybe I'll just go, nice to meet you. And that's the only sign I'll do until they learn.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, of course, Catherine looks like she's about to have a heart attack.
She literally looks like she's gonna faint. Like, it bothers me so much. It's realistic, I know, but it bothers me so much how much they exaggerate John and Catherine being like, she's not okay, something's wrong with her.
And that is absolutely what a lot of hearing parents do.
So they bring Regina and Daphne to their house.
And then there's some exposition where Daphne is telling Regina, oh, John used to be the third baseman for the Kansas City Royals. Now he owns a car wash. Hence why their house is like 20 houses piled on top of each other.
Yeah, there's so many structures on their property.
Yeah. And then Catherine answers the door and goes, we're so excited to see you.
These scenes
Like
are
yell
rough.
talks, and every dead person, and maybe you also, are like cringing in pain.
Also, again, she wouldn't have Googled some stuff. She was just like, okay, let's just go into this. I'm just going to talk really loud.
Yeah, I don't know.
She wouldn't have texted Regina to be like, I have some follow-up questions. I don't know.
That is a great point. She could have just been like, I'm so excited to have you over for lunch. Is there anything I need to know beforehand?
Yeah, she also doesn't ask, does anybody have any... I guess maybe that's like a new thing. I feel like in 2011...
Oh, ask about dietary restrictions?
Yeah, because Daphne's also a vegetarian.
Right, like you.
And so I feel like people ask.
That's a normal thing to ask.
People almost
in
always
2011,
ask.
yes.
Yeah,
Allergies?
right.
Yeah. Well, she made chicken enchiladas, and she had to take the chicken out of chicken enchiladas. And you can't take the chicken out of chicken enchiladas.
Okay, real talk. Do we think those chicken enchiladas were good?
No, I think they're so bland.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to Catherine.
Yeah, I was shocked that that was the choice she made. Do we think that's maybe a suggestion?
She made it because Regina is Latina.
Do we think that's why? Because then in the next scene, she point blank asks Regina,
Are you
Mexican? Which is so crazy.
Crazy.
Just the way she does it. If she'd just been like, hey, where are you?
Like, where's your family from?
Where's your family
Because we
from?
want to know where Bay is from.
Exactly.
Our lovely daughter that we've been raising. And Bay also wants to know where she's from. Instead of going, are you Mexican? That was a crazy thing to say. And of course, Regina, who I forgot to mention, is played by Constance Marie, who I know so well from the Georgia Lopez show.
Love her. Hate
Yeah.
Regina so much.
Yeah, Regina as a character is a tough one.
Yeah, she's tough, but also hot.
Another MILF.
Another MILF.
But yeah, she does play Mama Bear in this case. Well, first of all, she's like, no, I am half Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Which means Bay is a quarter Puerto Rican. So Adriana, Regina's mother, is Puerto Rican.
Yes. Who is not there at the meeting, by the way. I found it
No.
very fun how later in the episode, Adriana keeps popping up, and everyone's like, who is this?
And then, like, you wouldn't introduce her. That is Bay's grandmother.
Right, she lives with them.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Adriana, the actor, has something to do with that day.
She was employed. She was at work, probably.
Yeah.
But I just later on, when Bay, like, runs into her so casually, and Daphne's like, oh, I guess this is your grandma. I'm like, why are people... Bay is really getting the short end of the stick. Daphne gets a house tour. Daphne gets to meet everyone. And Bay has to, like, break into Daphne's house later on.
I know, just to learn. But anyways,
I'm
yeah.
getting ahead of myself, I know.
Yeah. Anyways, when Catherine yell talks at Daphne, Regina does play Mama Bear and says yelling doesn't help, just look at her and speak normally. Which I think is a nice... This show is clearly made for hearing audiences. So I think a lot of the lines they drop, I'm like, this is for a hearing person to understand. Like, oh, maybe if I run to a deaf person at Starbucks, I won't yell talk at them. I'm gonna do what Regina says and look at them and speak normally. Not too fast, not too slow, like she says. And then Bay, I know Bay is going through it, but she is talking about Daphne in front of her. And, but I do understand her pain. You know, everyone is paying attention to Daphne. They are showering her with love.
Yeah. It sucks. They literally light Daphne in the show in a way where she's, like, glowing in the room at all times.
I know. And then, also interesting to see that Bay is seeing the sign and she's curious about it. But she's also feeling a little insecure. But
Yeah.
she's curious and she's like, I want to know what they're saying.
Yeah, she's the first one that seems genuinely curious about it and,
Yeah.
like, open to it.
Which tracks for her character, because she does go eventually to learn and actually sign very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, not for bonding and supporting her new kind of sister, though. Definitely not.
No.
Bay's motivations aren't always coming from the right place. She does say, when Daphne is just, like, speaking normally, Bae goes, I can't understand her.
Yeah, that's what.
Which is so crazy because everyone is listening to her and can understand her fine.
I think she was just moody. Everyone is giving her attention. She's insecure. And also, like, Regina's not being super friendly and is also not really trying to get to know Bae in the situation.
Okay, thank you. I felt crazy watching because she really is just like ignoring her.
Yeah, and I think Regina's being so defensive. She's so right to be defensive.
Because
but,
then
like,
John
it's
and...
not
Yeah.
it's not in a place of learning about one another. At least John and Catherine are trying.
They
in a
are.
very strange way, but I think Regina's kind of like closing in.
Yes. But Kara, they are in the kitchen trying to be like, can we take Daphne back?
That is so true.
And then they go, but of course, Regina can't have Bae. That's the conversation they have
That is
with each
true.
other.
I think I'm thinking about later on, but that is true.
Yes.
The first few episodes, they were like, we want custody because Regina's an unfit mother, which is absolutely insane.
It is insane. She is so on the defensive so fast in a way that makes me be like, yeah, I'd be stressed too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's so mean to Catherine right away.
I know. It's upsetting.
And Regina doesn't know anything about Bae because she hasn't made any
She
effort.
hasn't asked a single question.
She doesn't ask her a single question. And then the parents are talking downstairs. Bae literally goes upstairs and like is blasting music in her room. She's not even there anymore.
Right.
And no one goes to check on her.
No.
Regina doesn't think, let me go upstairs and meet my daughter.
Maybe say, hey.
Maybe say, hey.
Sup, girl? Do you
Sup?
like to draw?
Yeah.
No? None of that. None of that. Yeah, I feel so bad for Bae in this situation. But meanwhile, while Bae is being moody, Toby is giving Daphne a tour of the house, and we find out that there are tennis courts, plural.
Yeah.
There's a gazebo, there's a swimming pool, a guest house. We'll come back to that later. There's a guest house.
Most of these things, which we never see, by the way.
We do see the swimming pool, and he says a basketball court, but I think it's just a hoop on the driveway.
Yeah, I think it's just the hoop, which we never see them play tennis. If I was designing this house, if I was designing the Kenish house, I would maybe swap out. It seems like they use that basketball court in their driveway a whole lot more than they use the tennis court. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. And then they have several garages, I assume for there's multiple cars. And then Toby also has one for his music, and then Bae for art. So yeah, it's a whole new world for Daphne. Yeah, Daphne picks up a basketball and plays 1v1 b-ball with Toby, and we learn she's got the athletic genes from John. That's a big one.
Really establishes right away she's a Kenish.
She's a Kenish through and through. And Toby, I guess, is a little athletic, but he's a music boy.
Yeah. I think later on there's some talk about how he like quit baseball.
He did quit baseball.
Because he wanted his dad to be off his back or whatever.
Yeah, but he was like very good apparently.
Famously, Ryan is a really good baseball player in High School Musical too.
Oh my God.
So,
and then while Toby and Daphne are outside, the Canishers are talking to Regina, and they were like, "So, the deaf thing, why?"
Crazy.
And basically, yeah, Regina's like, so Daphne went deaf at age 3 from meningitis. Meningitis, for context, is a bacterial infection, and it can damage hair cells in the cochlea. And she can hear some ambient noise with the hearing aids. That must have been extremely traumatizing for the two of them. Like, bacterial meningitis can straight up kill you.
Yeah, it's really deadly.
Yeah, so glad that Daphne just lost her hearing, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, glad that everything seems fine.
Yeah. Like,
seems like it worked out as well as it could have.
Like, she's a perfectly, like, happy human being, and that's, yeah, she seems fine. But then John kind of implies that it's Regina's fault that Daphne got sick, because he's like, where were you?
Yeah.
And, well, like, how did she get it? And she goes, well, it's a bacteria. She caught it. I didn't, like...
give it to her.
I didn't cough on her or leave her out on the street.
Yeah. It's a rough scene to watch, for sure.
It's tough. It's really tough, because yeah, it's a tough scene.
Yeah, the Kenishes are definitely going on attack, and Regina is not doing herself any favors in the way she sort of responds.
No, she's not. She's doing, like, very one-word answers, like, well, she's deaf, or, like, she's fine.
Yeah.
And not maybe understanding that John and Catherine are so new to this, and that they both need to give each other some grace.
Yeah, everyone, which is kind of what Regina tries to say, is like, let's take some time to process.
Yeah, and then, yeah, John and Catherine, again, are very new to this. Daphne is likely the first deaf person they probably ever met. For context, I am deaf, but I am pretty sure I'm also, my whole family's hearing. I'm pretty sure I'm also my family's first deaf person they have ever met. Like, for most human parents of deaf children, the first deaf person they'll ever meet is a child. And I get it, they are trying to learn. Yeah, but the way they're coming across is insane.
And it is only going to get worse in this episode.
And they're so eager just to snatch her.
Yeah, they really want to take her away right away.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so wild that Regina then just leaves. She just leaves Daphne at the house.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I gotta go. Did she make other plans for this day where they're like hanging out
I think
with
she was
her?
like, I'm sick of this.
Yeah, so she
And
just
Daphne
leaves.
seems to be having fun. I'm going to leave her.
Also, hasn't spent any time with Bae.
No. Bae's in the room having a Menchie bee.
Yeah, and she said, all right, I think I'm gonna bounce. That's another thing Regina and Bae have in common. They both love to dip out of a situation that they don't want to be in.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Liam is like, what's going on? You're not telling me what's wrong. But Bae's being very
Honestly,
defensive.
I forget. I glossed over Liam's presence in this episode completely.
Now he's in this.
I know. He's very handsome. He seems nice enough. He doesn't seem like he likes Bae at all.
No, but there must be something, because Bae is kind of like the outcast in the school.
Yeah.
She seems to have, like, some friends, but, like, she's certainly not popular. She struggles in school academically. And she's kind of like the quirky weird girl.
It seems like maybe Liam is, like, dating her to piss off his dad. Is kind of the vibe that I get. Because he's not really interested in anything about her life.
I just don't see, like, how the two of them are compatible.
Well, they're not, because spoiler alert.
It does not work.
It does not
Bae
work
says,
out.
I think we need a break when he is asking her questions.
And then John brings Daphne home to East Riverside.
That particular scene was interesting. So John drops Daphne off. And then he's like, oh, wait, you forgot your sweater. But then Daphne doesn't hear him. And she goes in the house. Also, in the scene, we meet Adriana for the first time. Just like, hello, goodbye, good night. But he realizes, like, oh, wait, she can't hear me. And then, like, noise ensues from, like, the surrounding environment. Like, the ice cream trucks and the horns honking and the dogs barking. Which I think was interesting. Because he's suddenly thinking, like, oh, she can't hear these things I'm hearing right now.
Yeah. I guess it was trying to accomplish two things then. Because they're also trying to imply that because the neighborhood is loud, he's worried it's unsafe.
Yeah, like, I don't know, dogs bark everywhere.
Drops her off, sees an ominous ice cream truck.
And he goes back to Catherine and he's like, that place was scary. There's bail bonds on every corner. And Catherine said, we need to get out of there. Anyways, next day, Bae is drinking coffee. God forbid.
Bae is literally...
Menchie bee, I get it.
She says, I have a nose ring, I'm drinking coffee...
And she whips out a cigarette.
And then her mom's like, what are you doing? She goes, living the life I was meant to live. And she whips out a cigarette.
So are you implying...
I think she's being, like, racist and shitty towards these people that she just met.
That's what I think.
I think she's like, this
And
is
classist.
how... Yeah, this is how people in East Riverside live. Like, now that I'm a quarter Puerto Rican, I'm gonna, like, underage smoke. It's very weird.
I need to pierce my nose, drink coffee. Everyone drinks coffee.
Yeah. It's a little too on the nose, like, teen rebelling for me.
I would have been fine if it was just the nose piercing. Because that seems normal enough. But the cigarette really was over the edge. Bae!
It was so dramatic.
Anyways, yeah, the next scene, John goes to Regina's house back in East Riverside. And he's like,
And he's finally used Google.
hey, I just found out about this really cool new thing. It's called the Coca Land plant. And she's like, yes, I have a deaf daughter. I'm well aware of what a cochlear implant is. For context, I have a cochlear implant. So yeah, I am very well aware. And Regina goes on a little monologue where everything she says is 100% right. She's like, the surgery costs about $100 grand, not including speech therapy and audiology appointments, which is so true. And then, of course, John is like, well, why wouldn't you want it for her? And she was like, well, if I wanted for her, I would have gotten it. Like, I'm a good mom.
Yeah. And I believe, like, Regina totally would have gotten it.
She would have made it work.
Although we do learn some stuff about her later that makes
Maybe
me
she
think
wouldn't have made it
maybe
work,
she
but,
wouldn't
like-
have made it work.
but
But in this
also-
moment, I believe her.
I believe her. And also, Daphne is fine with the CI. Like, she's fine. Yeah, and then Regina rightfully says, like, it's not a cure. I think, of course, John and Catherine are looking at it through, like, the medical lens of disability. Like, oh, you have a disability, let's fix it
Yeah.
and cure it. And she was like, well, it's not a cure. It's listening will always require work. And she ate with that. And
Yeah.
she's so right. But yeah, I think that was a very interesting contrast of, like, the Kenishes going right into the medical model of disability, which is like the belief that disability reduces the quality of life and that we need to correct or diminish the disability with appropriate medical intervention, like cochlear implants. And then Regina is on the side of more like the social model, which is seen as like deafness is a diverse expression of human life, and she focuses on deaf identity and embracing disabled people for who they are, rather than what needs to be fixed. And then, yeah, I think that was perfectly encapsulated in the sentence. Regina says she likes being deaf, and John says no one likes being deaf.
John, who has never met a deaf person in his life.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. I do understand why the scene happened, because I'm sure many hearing people were watching this going, why doesn't she have a cochlear implant? And the writers were like, well, we need to explain why.
Yeah, I am glad they got it out of the way so fast. I think
know.
we're going to get a little bit more cochlear talk in the next, like, 2 episodes.
We do get some cochlear talk. I think throughout the whole series, honestly. But I remember watching that in 2011 with my cochlear. I only had one cochlear implant at the time. I got the first one implanted when I was 5, and then the second one implanted when I was 16.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right one, 5, left one, 16.
Is there a reason to do it that way?
I think just back then it was more common for insurance, or it was just more common to only do 1 year at a time instead of bilateral. There was a bunch of reasons. One, insurance only covered 1 year, and my parents were like, well, we can't afford that.
Yeah.
Again, it's $100 grand per year.
That's very insurance of them. Per ear? I thought
Per
it was
ear.
total.
No,
Wow.
per year. Yeah.
And that's in 2011 money. I bet it's gone up.
It was over $100K for my left ear when I was 16, because I saw the bill, and thank God insurance paid for it after my God bless my mother, who battled insurance for quite a while. I also had some hearing in my left ear, some residual hearing, but I ended up losing all of it, and it was my own decision when I was 16 to just get the second implant. So I remember that surgery very well.
Okay.
And the audiology appointments and whatnot. But yeah, it's years and years of speech therapy and audiology appointments. I still go to the audiologist about once or twice a year. And speech therapy I did for 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But for like someone like Regina, that is not feasible.
No.
Not in the slightest. I come from an upper middle class family from Long Island. Like, that was definitely something they made work. But like, I would say most families can't. Which is why Daphne is at the Carleton School for the Deaf.
Yes, I got so happy when we went there. It's a
Yeah.
way better vibe over there.
Yeah, and Daphne is singing outside with Emmett. We love Emmett.
God, he's so cute right away.
Yeah, played by Sean Burry, who is deaf in real life. And you can tell by his signing. He is signing a million miles a minute. He's so good.
Yeah, when I was taking sign language, I was like, I have to get better because I have to be really good when I finally meet Sean Birdie. Because I need to impress him.
When I marry Sean Burry, I
When I marry him, yeah. Oh, I was so obsessed with him.
Yeah. But this is a really cool scene to see, just because this is the first time we're seeing two deaf people sign on network TV. I think this is pretty groundbreaking at the time. But then also, this is the beginning of noticing that the English captions are kind of different from the ASL that Daphne and Emmett are signing. So, like, for example, something I wrote down was that Emmett said, in another life, the caption said, in another life, you probably wouldn't have become deaf. But, like, the way he signed it was, in another life, you hearing. So why didn't the caption just say, in another life, you would have been hearing? And then another example was, the caption said, one change and everything changes. But then Emmett signed domino effect. Like, why didn't they just say domino effect? And I think it would have been cooler to say.
Yeah. That would have been way cooler to say. One thing changes and everything changes. That's so clunky.
Like, why didn't you just say, it's like the domino effect? That's poetic, Emmett.
Yeah.
I do think these are words ripped straight from the writer's scripts.
I do wonder about that. I was just at the movies last night. We went to see Splitsville, and it was open caption. And even the captions sometimes were different from
Slightly
what the
different.
actors were saying.
It drives me crazy.
It's like that on Netflix shows too all the time. I do wonder if they're just running the scripts and then they're not like adjusting for ad libs.
I think that's what is happening. I think the writers have a script, and then I think they throw the captions on the screen. And then maybe there's a separate ASL coach who is kind of like saying, like, you can sign this, but it's not perfectly matching with what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Sean Birdie looking at the script and then being like, okay,
That's his
this
way
is
of
how I'm going
interpreting
to
it.
sign it.
Yeah,
But no one's double checking with him.
no one is double checking his signing and the words and changing it. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the entire show. This is something that does drive me a little crazy, but it's okay. What drives me crazy later the most is the sim comment, which we will get to.
Yeah, thank God we didn't have to deal with much of that
Yeah.
in this first episode.
No, not yet. But yeah, Bay is in East Riverside spying on Regina for some reason. I think because Regina hasn't spoken a word to her.
Yeah, spying on Regina in the second most ridiculous outfit in this episode. She's
What's
wearing,
she wearing?
like a
the glasses?
newsboy cap and these big glasses. It's so in her car, like she looks so
In her BMW.
Yeah, she looks so sus, like, and just like sticks out like a sore thumb.
And a neighborhood boy, whose name we don't know yet, rightfully says, "Get out.
Yeah.
What, you don't belong here." And he says, you must be a rich white girl looking for drugs. And she goes, "I'm not a rich white girl." And he goes, "You're in a BMW."
Her saying, "I'm actually not a rich white girl," is so crazy because that's how Bae feels now.
That's true.
Like, Bae immediately was like, I shed all of the privilege that I have come from.
And honey, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Your parents are still paying for your college. And then she goes, "This is not a pipe." The name of the episode.
Yeah. I love when they say the name of the episode in the episode. And Ty, the neighborhood boy, who we learn his name is Ty,
Yes.
is smitten immediately, it seems, because she has quoted Magritte.
Everything is not what it seems. You may see a rich white girl, but actually, I'm a quarter Puerto Rican. Anyways, now we're back at Carlton, and John is watching her play basketball.
Yeah, why is this man at her school?
How did he get in?
How did he get in?
This happens a lot. He is,
John Kennish is the king of overstepping.
yeah, he also, I watched this stuff, but I was reading the lyrics, and there was song lyrics in it, and some song was playing with the lyrics. I can hear, but I can't hear. Which I think is a little on the nose.
Wow. The music supervisor had a real fun time with that one.
Yeah. Then Daphne does a very easy layup, but everyone acts like she just did a slam dunk. And John is like, "Oh my God. My daughter is so athletic and cool." Anyways, do you want to go to Buckner?
Yeah, he's like, you know where you should play? Buckner.
Because I don't think isolating yourself in a debt bubble is a good idea. And you should go to a regular school with regular kids.
John Kennish has never seen a line that he doesn't want to cross.
And Daphne, oh God, I want to shake her by the shoulders and be like, stand up for yourself. Because she what I think she wants to say is, I'm happy here and I enjoy my school.
She really has some father stuff going on.
That is also true. She's not used to having a father figure, so maybe she's like, well, this is what dads do. And he also asked her to keep it a secret from Regina, that this whole
Yeah.
conversation.
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
This is the first instance where we see, like, I know it's her dad, so she gets a pass a little bit, but Daphne loves men. Daphne's like a guy's girl, for sure.
She really is. She's got no girlfriends.
Yeah. She loves, her guy best friend, who's so obviously in love with her. And then she does whatever John wants her to do.
That is true. Daddy
Like,
issues.
yeah, she's kind of a doormat with men.
God.
I know.
It's
Poor
tough.
thing.
I know. Yeah.
So she keeps it a secret from her mom.
And she ends up touring Buckner.
It's so insane that they go on a tour.
Without telling Regina.
Right. Where
her
does
mother.
Regina think she is? They would have had to sign her out of school.
It's a school day. Bay is a school. And they have an interpreter with Daphne, played by Paul Raci, who I love. He's a Korean in real life, but he was in Sound of Metal, also my favorite movie in the whole entire world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's the interpreter for Daphne, and then they mute the audio, which the show loves to do, to show her perspective, which I don't mind. I do find it helpful.
As a hearing person, I do enjoy the drama when they cut the audio.
And then someone asked Bay, who's the girl, and she goes, that's just a scholarship student that my parents are sponsoring.
They also didn't tell Bay they were taking Daphne on a tour.
Yeah, that is also their fault. I don't love that Bay lied. But also, what do you say? That is my sister and not sister. The family didn't, like, sit down and discuss, like, what they should tell people also.
No.
Or, like, when they should tell people. No one is talking to each other about anything. But yeah, Daphne decides to walk around on her own, and she spots Liam,
Oh my God.
who
who's
whips out
back?
his finger spelling talents, Liam.
It makes me so mad that she's so charmed by him immediately.
It's 4 letters.
And he acts like he deserves an award.
He's like, I can fingerspell. I'm the shit.
And then he's like, you should give me a sign name.
Oh, but then we also learn about Daphne's sign name, which is the letter D on the chest, and it's the sign for happy, because she's happy all the time, I guess. Which I think is fitting. She has a very smiley personality.
She has a very smiley personality. I will say this first interaction with Liam reveals truly how corny Daphne is. She's such a cornball.
Yeah, the sense of humor kind of killed me, because Liam asked for a name sign, and Daphne informs him and also every hearing audience, like, that's not how it works. A deaf person has to name you.
Yeah.
And then he was like, what's the sign for extremely handsome or something?
Yeah, and then she says it's against the rules. Or maybe he says it's against the rules.
Oh, it's against the rules. But that's Daphne's brand of humor. It's painful. And it's for men. It's catered to men.
Yeah, it's only the men are laughing, and they're really only laughing because of how hot she is.
I know. But we get the tiniest morsel of deaf culture in the scene by saying a deaf person has to name you. So, there we go. And then Bay in the parking lot of Buckner is like, so what is going on? Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, why didn't you tell me? Again, the fact that her parents are like moving this girl into her school and Regina hasn't even bothered to send her a text, I don't think.
No.
Just nothing. No interest whatsoever.
Yeah, and then John goes, what's in her nose? Catherine, what's in her nose? Several days have gone by at this point.
Sorry, that's really dad coded. My dad loves me so much. It would also take him a long. I've gotten full tattoos, visible tattoos, and come home and he has not noticed for many
That's true.
days.
Dads do be forgetting that.
But in that moment, it does really hit hard considering Bay did it to get her parents' attention.
And her dad is not getting that.
No, he does not care.
Yeah.
And then Toby meets Emmett.
Yeah, Daphne bumps into Toby just as Emmett goes to pick her up on his motorcycle. And then Toby also gets an introduction to deaf culture, asks some ignorant questions about Emmett in
Yeah.
front of Emmett without talking to Emmett.
This was rough.
This was so painful.
Knowing that they kind of become friends later on
It helps.
helps.
But he's like, well, why doesn't he speak? And then Daphne, of course, has to do the I must inform the hearing audience. some people speak and some don't.
Yeah, she does a lot of like, it does feel a little like a Wikipedia entry for like why like deaf people and speaking. It's like
I know. A lot of this pilot is, which I get.
they had to ease us
Had to
in.
do it. But then at one point, Emmett calls Toby a moron, and he does the sign for P-brain, which is awesome. The sign for P-brain is just like you pinch your fingers around your head. But then Daphne, ally at this point, says, Emmett said he loves your shoes.
This happens a lot throughout the show
It does.
with Daphne and Emmett,
Yes.
which Emmett's not clueless. He can read her lips as she lies.
Yes.
So I think it must be,
I think it's the two of them being silly together.
I think it's an inside joke for them
Yes.
where he gets to be as mean as he wants about someone and knows that Daphne will sort of curtail it and make it fine.
Also, at the same time, this is Daphne's brand new brother. She doesn't want to, like, call him an idiot.
Totally. That being said, she does say to Toby, like, I'll interpret for you, and then fully just lies about what Emmett's saying.
Yeah.
And that,
I think it was just not the time to call him an idiot.
yeah. But I don't like I didn't love the precedent it sets. I feel like Emmett's really snarky a lot of the time, and I
Emmett
can't.
is.
And a lot of people, and Bae does this later on too, where
That is
she'll
true.
soften the blow of whatever he said when she's interpreting for him. And I can't tell, he usually doesn't call anyone out on it, so I'm assuming he doesn't care or he thinks it's funny.
I think he thinks it's funny to, like, say whatever he wants. And he knows that they're kind of going to dumb it down or soften the blow
Yeah.
so people don't get hurt. And I think he's kind of like, ha ha ha, they don't know ASL, so I can kind of sign whatever I want.
Yeah. But if you're ever interpreting for a friend, don't do that. Don't lie about what they said.
Yeah, full access is interpreting everything the person says.
Yeah. Even when they're being a dick.
Yeah.
Although Emmett was justified in calling Toby a moron in this case because he is acting like one.
Yeah, he's not getting the hint.
No.
Anyways. So yeah, Daphne and Emmett hop on the motorcycle, and John and Catherine see her on the motorcycle. And again, Catherine has a little meant to be.
Yeah, we're going to get back to that later. Bae gets herself arrested.
Well, before that, she decides to do street art in broad daylight in East Riverside.
Right.
And Ty catches her.
Yeah, so she's already begging to be arrested.
Broad daylight.
But she doesn't get caught by the police. She gets caught by the sexy neighbor guy.
Yeah. Bae gets arrested for using a fake ID to get beer.
Which is so... You know she didn't want the beer. She really did just want to get arrested.
She just wanted to spend some time with her parents.
Well, she just wanted to spend some time with her birth mother. She does not call her parents. Regina
Right.
gets a call and thinks Daphne's been arrested, probably because the police say, your daughter is here.
Right.
She
Which is a good
starts-
assumption.
Yeah, she starts yelling about
Get an interpreter.
she needs an interpreter.
But Bae doesn't need an interpreter.
And she shows up and it's Bae looking like a lost little puppy.
I know.
God, she is sympathetic in this episode. I feel very bad for her.
And then Catherine comes in and admonishes her, and she's like, what has gotten into you? And then,
Regina pulls out a Her Body, Her Choice.
yeah, her body, her choice. I don't know if this was the time.
This was definitely not the time.
She's also not the mom.
But we gotta establish the clear differences between the Kenishes and the Vasquez.
With parenting styles, absolutely.
Yeah, with parenting styles and also with political beliefs.
And with political beliefs, which will absolutely come into the fray next episode. This is something, the political beliefs really come up. Then Catherine's like, by the way, I ran a security clearance on you, and you have 2 DUIs.
Yeah.
What the hell? And they get into a full fight at the police station, and Bae, poor Bae, is like, please stop.
Yeah, and then she just runs away again.
Yeah, she runs away.
Bae loves to dip. And I get it. I would have ran from this situation too.
Yeah. And John and Catherine are driving around like, where's our daughter?
Which is kind of crazy because there was tracking technology in 2011 on phones.
My parents didn't do that.
Yeah, but the Kenishes would have.
Okay, I'll take that. Catherine's upset at herself for not realizing that Bae isn't her biological daughter. And then this is like the only glimpse we get in this episode of like the parents processing this very traumatic event that happened.
Yeah.
We don't really get any of that
No.
for like most of like the whole show.
They're not doing a lot of processing is the thing.
No, I guess not. But I think she's just kind of like, how could I not have known? But it's okay because we got Bae and we love her so much.
That is when I got emotional.
Yeah, it's a really sweet scene.
When she's like, and I carried her and then I didn't know. Like, I get that she probably feels so guilty for not realizing.
Of course.
But then she feels so guilty for feeling guilty because she does love Bae despite ignoring her all the time.
I know.
And not really taking any interest in any of her interests
I know.
or personality.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Bae breaks into Daphne's room, kind of.
Oh, wait, are we there yet? I think that's Leia.
Oh, what am I missing? What did I skip?
Daphne is at home with Adriana, telling Adriana about Buckner. And first thing I know, she's simcomming. For context, simcom is simultaneous communication. It is speaking English and also using ASL at the same time. And it's not a perfect method of communication. And in this scene, it's not necessary because Adriana knows sign, as does Regina.
Yeah.
And yet they are simcomming, which drives me crazy. I don't like simcom in the show especially, and this will continue for the entire series. But yeah, Daphne is saying Buckner or Carlton, and in a way she's saying John Catherine or Regina.
Wow, that was deep.
Thank you. Yeah, and then Daphne simcoms to Regina and basically says stop lashing out at the Kenishes and that she's thinking of going to Buckner, and they have this whole fight.
And I really respect when Daphne's like, and I want you to support me. And Regina just goes, no.
I think Regina's right.
I think Regina's right too.
Yeah, I think she comes across saying, in a very mean way, saying you're going to be the weird deaf girl with an interpreter following you around. Very mean thing to say to your daughter. But at the same time, she's like, you're letting John and Catherine pressure you and trying to fit you into this box of what an ideal deaf person and a daughter should look like. But she's doing it in a very discouraging way. Also, I think this is also Regina just getting defensive. Like, what's wrong with the way I raised you? What's wrong with me sending you to this perfectly good school and you have all these perfectly good friends at the school?
Yeah.
Why do you need to go to this private school?
And I think she rightfully so is clocking that Daphne's just kind of rolling over to the pressure of the Kenishes. Because she's like a people pleaser, clearly.
Yeah, she says, stop that.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bae is on the run, but Toby picks her up, thankfully. And Bae says, no one can understand what I'm going through. And Toby says, actually, there is one other person. This is when she sneaks into the bedroom.
We get the most horrendous outfit in this whole episode.
Oh, I forgot. Tell me.
Which is Daphne is sleeping
Right.
in a like long sleeve, what looks to be like cashmere sweater with a t-shirt over it.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like very
I don't remember
2011 layering.
Also, aren't you hot?
Yeah.
Kashmir is very warm.
I
But maybe you
agree.
don't have good heat in your East Riverside house.
It's not winter. It's very ABC Family. Like, what do the teens wear? Definitely a long sleeve under a,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, Bae climbs through the window and they bond over music.
Bae is going through Daphne's music collection and she says, she goes, Pitbull and T-Pain? Damn, some of this is too hard even for me. Which is just
The
painful.
two hardest musicians I know.
Painful all around.
Pitbull, though? Mr. Worldwide?
Yeah, I just am thinking about where Pitbull is now.
What's he up to now?
With all the girls famously going to his concerts in bald caps and cosplaying as Pitbull. And then just Bae being like, God, it's so hard. Yeah, wow, you're like a real cool gangster girl. Like, it's so weird.
Do you know Bill Vikers, the light print ASL guy?
No.
He's an ASL teacher online, and he runs this website called lightprint.com. But he is bald, and my friend Sweet Oriel and I were thinking about doing Bill Vikers for Halloween.
Wow, and then you can keep the bald caps in case we ever go to a Pitbull concert.
Exactly.
That would be a good investment, honestly. You should
Yeah.
do that.
Anyways, yeah, we're back in Daphne's bedroom, and she is saying, oh, by the way, mom's struggling to pay rent. She got a car broken into. We might have to move to my uncle's place hours away.
Yeah. That really comes out of nowhere.
The next morning, Bay is still with Daphne's. I guess she stayed over. Didn't tell her parents. Her parents do not give...
First, that night, she walks out in Regina's home, and Adriana's there, and is like, hey. And Bay's like, who is this? And Daphne's like, oh, that's your grandma. Again, I'm begging for like a little fanfare for Adriana and for Bay.
I know. Yeah, they're chatting.
Yeah, Regina gives her some tough love, like yells at her a little, but is also a bit more supportive than Bay's parents were.
And Adriana says she's just like Bay was when she was her age.
Yeah.
And that's like the only semblance of connection they have this episode.
But it is meaningful for Bay to be like, wow, maybe I am like you, Regina.
I learned that my mom was rebellious and can draw, and that's kind of it.
Well, and that Bay is a quarter Puerto Rican.
And that Bay is a quarter Puerto Rican. And then she says, guys, I have an idea. You know that guest house? That 3-bedroom house that is just empty? That we never use?
Yeah.
Chekhov's gun. Cut to the next scene. Daphne, Regina, and Adriana are moving in. But also, John and Catherine haven't met Adriana, so they're like, who is she?
Yeah, again, justice for Adriana.
Justice for Adriana. She's a lovely woman.
She's lovely. She does sort of disappear completely from the show in later seasons, but...
Yeah. Well, she ends up doing Jane the Virgin. Great show.
Forgot she was in that. But anyway, she's there for now. For now, she's also moving into the guest house.
She's moving into the guest house, her own beautiful house, and Ty is helping them move in. And yeah, wonder we'll see him again.
And this is Bay's first time realizing that Ty is like so attached to the Vasquez family.
That is true. And then she goes, wait a second. Who's my dad?
Oh, we get to see one more shot of Emmett coming to pick Daphne up. I love that they're moving in. Daphne moves like 2 boxes in, and then she says, gotta go. And her like
does not help.
Hot friend on a motorcycle shows up.
And he looks at Bay.
Oh, he looks at Bay.
Ooh. They're still my favorite couple. If he didn't do whatever he did.
Do you know what he did?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Sean Birdie's so good at just like when he smiles, like...
He's such a teen heartthrob, like dreamboat boy. But he goes, who's that? And Daphne goes, that's me. In another life.
Oh. And they ride off, and
Into the sunset.
The last shot is Bay standing alone.
And she will continue to stand alone.
Yeah, that's a real tone setter for the season, honestly.
Man.
When I started my rewatch a couple of months ago, I actually skipped this episode because in my head, I was like, it's so slow and we're with the Kenishes for so long before we even meet Daphne.
That is not the case.
I know. I don't know why in my memory it was like a useless episode. I think there's so much good stuff here.
My complaint is that there's so much plot. I don't think we need all this plot in one episode. Like maybe Bay doing like the artwork and John and Catherine deciding to like go full custody mode.
Yeah, I think it was from an era of TV where all pilots had to be like that. You had to have a pilot that like hooked executives enough to order a whole season. So like if you'll notice when we watch the next episode, they probably filmed the pilot like 6 months before they filmed the rest of the show.
That's usually the case, right?
Yeah. I can't wait to get into the drama of it all.
Yeah. Tune back next week.
Yeah, next week for episode 2.
American Gothic. Every week or every other week?
I don't know. Tune back in to find out what we decide.
Yeah. We're working on this.